For anyone, hello everyone. My name is Julie Worknevich, and if I haven't met you before, I am the Executive Director of HMA. And on behalf of the conference committee and the HMA board, I want to either welcome you back if you were with us last week, or welcome you to your first day, if today is your first day. We are going to start out with a reflection by our very own Ann Gornick. Ann?
Good afternoon. Let us quiet our minds and hearts and connect with our breath, our spiritus, our true north that dwells deep within inside of us. So I invite you to gently close your eyes.
Are you listening?
Place one hand on your heart and the other hand over. And breathe in light of compassion. And as you breathe out light of compassion. So continue with this mindful breath as I read The Body of Compassion by Joyce Rupp. I pray that the light of compassion and my true north, shining in my soul, will recognize and receive the light shining in others, that together we will care for creation with respect and have gratitude for all that exists. I pray to be the face of compassion, that those who come within my view find a cordial, kindly reception written upon my facial landscape. I pray to be the ears of compassion, that those who come filled with distress will experience my attentive presence, ready to listen without distraction. I pray to be the eyes of compassion, that those who lack society's support will receive my non-gentle gaze, a look of unbiased, heartfelt welcome. I pray to be the heart of compassion, that those who feel overwhelmed with suffering will sense my empathetic response, one that forgoes a desire to fix the hurt. I pray to be the hands of compassion, that those whose life could benefit from my presence and my actions will be assisted by the humble offering. I pray that the light of compassion and my true north, shining in my soul, will recognize and receive the light shining in others, that together we will care for creation with respect and have gratitude for all that exists. So throughout your day, continue to breathe in the light of compassion, and as you breathe out the light of compassion. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
So I would like to introduce Terry Helton, that will be introducing our next speaker.
Hi, it's my pleasure to do this. So Linda Olowach is the director of HopeWorks Global Inc., a nonprofit organization committed to preventing human trafficking by addressing its root causes through education, survivor-centered care, and community empowerment. She holds a degree in psychology with a minor in international relations, along with consultancy certifications in anti-trafficking and human rights advocacy. Her mission is deeply informed by lived experience, including personal encounters with injustice and proximity to communities affected by the exploitation, as well as her unwavering faith in God. For over a decade, she has led community-centered initiatives across the U.S. and Kenya, equipping leaders, engaging vulnerable populations, and promoting trauma-informed, culturally responsive strategies. Her work bridges the gap between research and real-world practice with expertise in nonprofit leadership, equity-driven program design, and policy advocacy. She firmly believes that when people are equipped with the right tools and aligned with their purpose, they become powerful agents of justice and transformation. It is my pleasure to introduce Linda Olowach. Are you there, Linda?
Yes, I'm right here. Good afternoon.
Okay.
Right, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. Sorry. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Alwatch. You can all hear me, right? You can all see my screen, right? Awesome. So thank you, Terry, for such a wonderful introduction. Basically, I'm here to speak about finding your true north. And for me, it's how I got to where I am today, which I consider to be my true north. And I've put down there, when life broke me, uh, basically, so when life broke me, purpose found me, and really, my story, I usually say it's the story of God in my life, not really my story. I have the flag of Kenya there. This is how we recognize each other. If you can see on your cameras or on your screen, I also have the flag of Kenya as a bracelet. And really, so my early childhood was actually in Kenya, early childhood, adulthood. And this is going to be a very, yes, I'm presenting, but it's also going to be a very type of storytelling type of presentation as I go through the slides.
Yeah, I'm trying to get Zoom. I've got it on my phone.
You can't hear me? Are we good?
We can hear you.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, I thought someone was saying turn my mic on. Alrighty, yeah. So as I was saying, my early childhood and early adulthood was actually in Kenya. Grew up with a single mom of four. I'm the youngest of four girls. And basically, we grew up very. Um, I carry scars where we fought over food. Carry scars where I had a shoe that covered the top of my foot, but the bottom was uh, like not covered or naked or exposed. And I did not realize this is how terrible this was, because I did not realize that I stepped on a nail till somebody tapped me on the shoulder and called me by my native name, Musenya, and said, "Hey, you're leaving behind bloody footprints." And did what most of us do in the third world countries. I bent down, took the nail out, went home. I got basically just was taken for a tetanus shot, and I have survived since then. So with that, I grew up in that environment, and as a child, I always saw our neighbors and thought there was better. I grew up back in the day where we watched the black and white TVs. I've just aged myself now. But where we watched black and white TVs, and we did not own the TV. So we would actually go and peep through our neighbor's TV and our neighbor's window to watch the TV. And going on with that, one point in my life when I was 9, again, because my mom needed to go back to school to better her life and to really get a better job, she went back to school. She works for the government in Kenya, and she left us with one of our relatives. This relative, in my family, there happens to be a whole line of Christians and a whole line of Muslims. That's my mom's side of the family. I never met my dad. So basically, like I said, I grew up with a single mom. So with going to live with relatives, I ended up being initiated into Islam. And then the second thing was I ended up being sexually molested by my 23-year-old cousin as a 9-year-old. So when we talk about trauma, when we talk about the childhood abuse, this is stuff that defined my childhood. What defined my childhood was needing to have my hair shaved, like bald, because I did not have a caregiver who would actually remind me that I need to wash my hair. So having my hair shaved bald had lice. That's how I grew up. And eating a meal a day or having a slice of bread with half a cup of tea just to survive. And really, with that, we ended up, one of my sisters, she was 7 years older than me. She actually ended up running away from home. And with this, she basically got pregnant in high school. This is the first year. Let me just put a disclaimer, and some things I might talk about might be triggering for some people. If that's the case, please take a moment. Like, I don't know what your rules are, but take a moment and step away if you need to, or just put in the chat or reach out to the moderators and let them know how you're feeling. And my sister got pregnant as a 16-year-old high school, and she came back. First of all, my mom was starting to just for us to survive. Now there's a 16-year-old with a child. And culturally, and now this is where culture comes in. Culturally, that was like the biggest embarrassment to the family. So of course she was beaten and she ended up running away. In the running away from home, she fell into the wrong hands. So now I'm talking about the tragedy and all that. So she ran away from home, fell into the wrong hands. We would find her, with her daughter, my niece, Carol, we would find them and tell her, hey, you need to come back home. And she'd be like, no, they'll not be happy. They'll not be happy. And with that, we never really connected who that they were because, like so many of us, we did not know what human trafficking was back in the day. All we thought was she had run away from home. So in that moment, we basically just left. And 13 years later, yes, we would still maintain contact here. And 10 years later, we get a call. And the call said they had found my sister in one of the slum, if you've ever watched National Geographic or gone for any type of missions, you've probably been exposed to slum areas. And she had been found in one of those slum areas. And it's a neighbor who actually had a baby crying in the house. And when they went to check, they found this woman who was sleeping on the ground. Basically, she did not have a mattress. And she was on the last stages of HIV. So called and my sister and my mom happened to be in town because we lived in two separate cities. And they went to pick her at the hospital. In Kenya, mostly the cheapest hospitals are, we call them general hospitals. Private hospitals are for the elites. So they took her to this one hospital that was solely for patients with HIV/AIDS. And I started going back to my sister. Of course, at this point, there was nothing much we could talk about because she was on the verge of death and she'd lost so much weight. I'm sure you've all seen like these types of instances. I don't mean to be too graphic. And I was the last person to see her the day before she died. And how I found out my sister had died was I went to the hospital and the lady, the nurse, actually saw me coming and she asked me, who are you here to look for? And I said, here to see this thing. She said, oh, just missed the van that carried the bodies. That's how I found out my sister died. So remember, I had the childhood trauma. I have the uh, basically the poverty trauma, the sexual abuse trauma. Now I have the death trauma my sister, and by organizing the funeral and all that. Yes, all that is stuff that I shoved in. All that is stuff that I did not deal. So I ended up one of those people who carried all the anger. I ended up like basically to I got into drugs. I went zero to zero to the coke, zero and alcohol. And I sit here to say, yes, I'm 23 years old. So glory to God, because that was another story altogether. But in all that to say, that shaped who I was. That shaped how my life was until we moved to the US. We moved to the US in 2016 as we moved. And now by this time I'm already like saved for years. I already have a relationship with Christ. As you can see on the slide, this is the point at which faith became like my focus. This is the point where I started making decisions based on what does the Bible tell me to do, not what does culture tell me to do. In this, really, I'm not gonna like try and insult like anybody's intelligence. I'll just speak around the points to explain what I have here. For me now, faith became a thing where there's so much injustice in the world. What can I do about this injustice? I know I cannot change the whole world, but can I reach at least one person? And advocacy for me now, while I was still in Kenya, caring for young girls who experienced the same thing I did, advocating for families that were experiencing the same economic challenges that we did as a family. Kenya, we actually received for small scale farmers. And these are farmers who basically, I remember one of the farmers was so excited to have caught a mouse or a rat.
Linda,
Yes.
I'm just gonna stop for 1 second because some of us are having trouble hearing you. So
Oh,
I'm
really?
just telling people to put on the captions
Okay.
to the right of their screen so that it will pop up what you're saying at the bottom of the screen, but everyone has to opt in. I can't
Oh,
opt everyone in. Okay?
all right.
So you can
Cool.
continue, no worries for you. I just thought it might be easier for some people.
You got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
Linda,
Awesome.
if you stay closer to your computer, that may, and not move back and forth, that may help. I'm not
I
sure.
actually have my earphones in, so that's why
Okay,
probably,
it's
yeah.
the connection. It is what
Yeah.
it is.
Sorry about that, yo.
You know, it's what
So
life is.
Julie, what you saying now? I went to captions, but I still didn't see what you saying. What you said?
Helen, it's under captions and you have to figure out how to turn it on. It gives you different levels. But I don't want to take up this time to explain all this, so we need to continue.
Yeah, but if we can't hear what's going on, it doesn't matter.
Well,
can you
we
hear me
type the
clearer now?
instructions in the chat? Just type the instructions for closed captioning in the chat.
Can you all hear me clearer now?
yeah, go ahead,
Linda, you
Linda.
can keep going and I will type them in the chat.
Gotcha. Yeah, so anyway, so that became setting up the warehouse receipt system basically became one of the pivotal points for us in terms of the advocacy and in terms of doing just what God has called us to do. And this builds up to where we founded HopeWorks Global. Looks like I lost my, yeah. So this became the point at which now I was like, what if my pain could be someone else's prevention? What if my pain could actually, my scars could become strength for somebody else? And in that moment, I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and set up an organization. And this organization was founded on a situation that I was involved in. HopeWorks Global, as earlier on introduced, HopeWorks Global was birthed out of a rescue that I was involved in, a mother of 4 who was being trafficked. And in the situation, the guy basically moved in, he would drag her record and rape her record and sell on the black market. And being able to get this woman out of her situation into freedom, A, gave me closure because now I can talk about what happened to my sister. B, it actually gave me purpose. And now this is where I say I found my true north, where I took the scars that I bear and they became the strength and they became the what that I do. They became my why. This is why I wake up every morning. This is why I'm excited. This is why I'm, like very animated sometimes. And as earlier on mentioned, I'm not going to repeat the introduction that was done earlier. We focus on prevention, we focus on empowerment, we focus on faith and healing. So out of that, I basically attended the certification program to become a human trafficking prevention consultant. And for us, really, we focus on everything about the whole person. When this person comes, what took them into that situation? How did they end up becoming a victim or a survivor? We focus on what knowledge did they have. We focus on what's their spiritual status, whether they don't have status. For us, it's what's their relation, what's their faith, what does that look like? How can we help them find that inner healing? So for us, that's basically how we've incorporated our work. My pain, I share it with people, just like I'm sharing it with you right now. My former pain, let me say that. The scars that I've had, I share that with people, just like I'm sharing with you. And out of that, we start building those pockets. Some of you all take care of the minds through maybe therapy. Some of you all take care of the body through the physical treatment. For some of you, it's the spiritual, aspect of it. So this is where, as Hope Works Global, we've actually decided that we build a collaboration, we build the partnerships, we build the opportunities for us to prevent what happened to the system from happening to anybody else. I know there's going to be questions later, so we can meet in the breakout rooms and I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have, just in the interest of time. But for right now, let's talk about human trafficking. What is human trafficking really? Human trafficking is actually use of force, coercion, or manipulation to get somebody to do something for financial gain. And with human trafficking, it's hidden in plain sight. It's actually, you can see somebody walk into your premises and not even know that this person is being trafficked. There's so many ways that people are being trafficked. There's so many ways that people are being forced or they're being tricked. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. And the lies that come with my sister. What happened was she was told that her family was not right. With the lady that I rescued, she was manipulated. And the daughter was actually like, the fear was instilled in her. If you say anything, I'm gonna kill your mom. So all these are ways, I'm just giving you real life examples of what trafficking looks like, what trafficking is, recognize. Okay, so I'll show you a video that has to do with myths and some of the things that we've been misinformed, because I've come across situations where people say human trafficking does not exist. I've been in circles where they ask me, does it really happen in our neighborhood? It happens everywhere. It happens in Kenya, it happens in the US. It's a global problem. And being a global problem, it's a problem that has generated over $256 billion from the sale of human beings. Let that sink in. Selling people, because all these people are tricked into working for someone else. So let's go ahead and watch this video.
Don't go too far now. You've got 3 more guys coming tonight. Hey, beautiful. Don't go too far now. You've got 3 more guys coming tonight.
都不舒服。你下次麻烦好一点。
Hey, sweetie, why don't you put your books down and come in here? I got some friends who want to meet you.
Hi, sweetie. Why don't you put your books down and come on in? Because I have some friends that want to meet you.
So, it's interesting to say, literally yesterday, I was talking to one lady. She's a nurse in my city, and we were basically talking about trafficking because I was just telling her about this person that is a non-sex offender, and he's actually been involved in trafficking situations. And in talking to her, she actually defended him so much. And simply because he goes to their church. And for me, that left me with a question. How many more people, I'm not saying that's the crowd that you are, but how many more people are so trusting in the name of God? And we've let predators into our surroundings, around our children, around our young, vulnerable populations, or even around our old, vulnerable populations, because trafficking doesn't choose. It can go from toddlers all the way to seniors. So, trafficking, as this next slide will show, it takes very many forms. Most people know trafficking as sex trafficking because that's what is out there. That's what many people are exposed to. And as the word states there, it's basically just commercial sex. Somebody is paid to go and sleep with as many men as you can. It's another form of prostitution, although there's conversations around that. So there's sex trafficking, there's labor trafficking, and this is becoming very, very common and very quickly. And I would say this is more so in African countries and probably third world countries, I would say, regardless of where they are, because it becomes cheap labor. And we've seen cases of people being moved from Africa, or to be specific, I'll speak about Kenya, from Kenya to the Middle East for domestic work, and their paperwork is confiscated and they don't get to go back home, or they don't get to communicate with their people, or they're paid less than what they had actually been told that they would be paid. There is child trafficking, and with child trafficking, this is mostly online. So we're coming across situations where children are being, like we just saw in that video, children are being used as pawns for sex trafficking, for labor trafficking, but all these are minors. Online exploitation, I literally just talked about that. The online exploitation, remember the story that I told you where I literally found my true north as well, is this lady being dragged, raped, recorded, being sold online. That's what online exploitation is all about. The other thing is there's also like the most recent trend that we've seen is teenagers, hey, send me your nudes, or hey, can we, like all this, I don't mean to be perverse or graphic, but all these sexual acts, all the way including bestiality, being done online, and all this is for money. So all those are forms of human trafficking that you need to be aware of, that you need to understand that they'll all not present themselves as sex or labor, because it's very hard to know if I'm being trafficked on the phone. It might be very hard for you to know unless you, of course, know like the signs to look out for. Trafficking, as I've written down here, it's not always visible. It always hides in plain sight. You can walk into a store and not know that somebody is being trafficked. Let me just show you this video. It's one of the examples that we usually show just to show how, especially online and child combine, and they become one big form of trafficking.
It's me. I can't stop thinking about you. I know you've been waiting for this for a while. I wanted to give you something special. Who are you? Why are you doing this?
And really, from that video that you've seen, that has become one of the leading causes of suicide and mental health issues in our teenagers. I don't have the data right now to prove that to you. I can always circle back with that data. But most of the teenagers who presented with mental health issues are now claiming to have been exposed or to have been taken advantage of by somebody else. The truth is, like I mentioned earlier, $256 billion a year. It's all this is just from the sale of other people. We're looking at in the US, one single trafficker being able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you'll see this in the next story. I have one more video just to show you. I'll leave this, I'll probably just skim over this slide for the interest of time, because I'd like to show you this one last video that will actually drive the point home and for you to understand what we are dealing with. So there's recognizing the signs, recognizing the red flags. You've probably come across people who are as bubbly as Linda is, and suddenly they're withdrawing from everybody else, or you can never get into their phones, and especially if it's teenagers, especially if it's young people. There's questions about that. I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and we all know each other's passwords. Why? Because that's my way of making sure that they're safe, and they understand that this is me trying to make sure that they're safe. The minute there's that withdrawal, or the minute they start acting weird, I'm able to pick up on that. There's inconsistent stories about work or relationships. You've probably come across, maybe there's some names that are coming up right now and you're like, oh man, I should have asked more questions about that. I do not know, but that's something that also can be a sign of someone being trafficked if they're constantly changing their stories about what they do or people that they hang out with. There's also signs of fear, control, or constant exhaustion. Fear in the sense that this person is constantly looking around them. Control in the sense that when you're trying to talk to them, maybe they don't have their paperwork, maybe their documents, legal documents, or when you try to talk to them, somebody else is responding on their behalf. Exhaustion comes a lot more with labor trafficking, like I said, which can also be tied in with sex trafficking. So with exhaustion, like if this person has never used drugs or if this person is not intoxicated, but you can tell that they're physically out of it, that could also be a sign of some deeper lying issues. There's a very thin line between domestic violence and sexual and human trafficking. So that could also be a sign of maybe somebody did something that their trafficker did not want them to do, and they ended up being beaten. So that's something that you also need to look into. I mentioned the documentation or control over their finances. And I mentioned the control as well, somebody else constantly monitoring them. These are some of the signs. They're not so obvious. So sometimes you might have to ask some deeper questions, and sometimes the safe question or asking, are you safe, might not be the right question for you to ask, because remember, there's the manipulation. This person has actually been manipulated to think that they're safe with this person, or their safety is controlled by this person. As the slide says, it contains discussions of sensitive subject matters. So please, if this is going to be triggering once again, you can step out of the room. And all these are videos that you can find. Some of them you can find online. Some of them we've actually had to request to be shared with us.
What makes you happy? What makes you happy?
Life. I'm grateful for every day.
Oh, that hit. Sorry, I'm like kind of getting emotional in this interview, just because I've been through like a rape situation, and so I'm really thankful that you're sharing your story, because I feel like a lot of people need to hear about this, and I really appreciate you just for speaking out.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. What a warrior you are. Look at you.
If you were alone in a room with someone who was human trafficked, what would you ask?
How many abusers did you have?
Was there ever a point where you thought this was going to be forever?
Did you try to seek help from anyone?
Hello, I'm Madison. What's your name?
I'm Jay. It's nice to meet you, Madison.
Nice to meet you.
How did it happen?
So I became homeless after I left home to escape some abuse at the hands of an extended family member. And I befriended some people who seemed like wonderful people. And then these two gentlemen began speaking to me about selling sex as a way of making a living. I rejected their offers because I was only a teenager, and later those two men came and took me and put me in the trunk of the car and drove off into the night. And that was the beginning of my exploitation.
How old were you when this happened?
Yes, I was 16 years old when I first was exploited, and then I wasn't able to get out of my trafficking experience until after I was 17.
How many abusers did you have?
Well, I had two main traffickers, and then as far as the people who purchased me, which would be the folks who abused me day in and day out, I had over 24,000 buyers. The age range of the men who bought me would be anywhere from their early 20s up into like elderly men, but the typical age of a buyer is a middle-aged white male, usually with a six-figure income.
What kind of abuse did you endure during your time?
I mean, there was really all kinds of abuse. There was, of course, sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse. A lot of it was just also unpredictable. So you might have gotten paid with change, and I would give the change over to the trafficker, and then suddenly change is not acceptable, and now I'm being beaten with the change inside of a pillowcase to let me know not to ever take change again. And then the next night, I turned down a buyer who has change, and then I would get beaten because I didn't accept money. So it was really all about keeping us confused.
How was your living condition during the time they kept you?
Our living conditions were terrible. We lived in a terrible apartment, had literal mold covering all of the walls. We had no furniture except for one bed, but you couldn't sleep in the bed. We also weren't allowed food or water. We weren't allowed to pick out our own clothing. We weren't allowed to bathe. We didn't have towels, soap, toothbrushes. We had nothing.
Was there ever a point where you thought this was going to be forever? And what got you through day by day?
Yeah, so I thought every single day that this was going to be forever. And so I really just lived moment to moment. I frequently dissociated. That was probably one of the biggest savers for my brain. I am very grateful for my ability to dissociate and remove me from situations that would have otherwise broke me mentally.
Did you try to seek help from anyone?
So I did not try to seek help while I was being trafficked. One, because they had drilled it into our heads that if we went to the police that we would be arrested because we were criminals, we were prostitutes.
What do you think about the people who paid or got access to you through the traffickers? Do you think they knew what was going on, and what do you think they were doing there?
I don't think that all the buyers were aware I was being trafficked, though a lot of them did ask questions about my pimp, so they definitely knew that I was under somebody else's control and that my profits would be going to another person. Any buyer who wants to help you, that just means that they want to take you home and make you their personal slave, and that didn't really seem like a good idea. As far as what I think about buyers, it takes a certain level of entitlement. Whatever is going on in their life, whether it's under the guise of being lonely or having sex as a quote-unquote need versus what it actually is it's a want. You know, air and water and food are a need. They give themselves permission. So to objectify and dehumanize me on that level in order to make me an object of pleasure for them, that's not somebody who I can have empathy or sympathy for.
How do you feel about sex work?
So I personally do not believe that sex work is work. I think the lowest statistic that I read was 87% of people who are in exploitation, even if they're choosing to be there, that they feel trapped and there is not a way out, and so they continue. And if somebody feels trapped, is that really consent? If somebody would rather say no, is that consensual? And are we okay with that?
How did you escape?
Yeah, so we would frequently move hotels and hotel rooms, and a hotel employee saw this group of young girls getting in a car with these two older gentlemen, thought something didn't seem right, and so they contacted law enforcement. Unfortunately, the state that I was in is one of half of the states that charge children with prostitution. So even though I was abducted and trafficked, the police arrested me. I was arrested and charged with prostitution and aggravated money laundering for taking money from the buyers and giving it to my traffickers.
And did they offer any resources to help you or anything? Or?
No.
How long were you in prison?
Yeah, so I was held for 40 days in this maximum security facility. My two traffickers each served 10 days for their crimes. They took plea deals. My main abductor, the one who I spent the most time with, he has never been to prison, and he is not a registered sex offender, as he is not seen as a danger to the community.
Oh my gosh.
Right, so I'll pause that video right there and basically move on to the next slide. The most important information we got, the rest just talks about like the questions we had before, what makes you happy and all that. So what do you do if you come across someone or if you suspect someone is being trafficked? And A, do not confront the trafficker. Your safety comes first. Safety, safety, safety comes first. The first thing you need to ensure is your safety and the person's safety. Find a safe place that you can talk. I've seen places where they ask them like, do you need a drink, and it's in a place where they don't offer any drinks. Like when we get into the Q&A session later, we can talk about all this and I can give you like some of the questions that maybe you can ask. report immediately. I left that there because you needed to see it. The National Human Trafficking Hotline. Sometimes it's busy, but report. If you need to call 911, do it. You can be the lifeline to somebody being saved, just like this lady was saved because somebody noticed a group of young girls with older gentlemen, and that's how they were rescued. Text, be free. Again, all these reports are usually anonymous because some people have said, I don't want to take any action because I don't know if the trafficker will find out it's me or not. Online, you can go ahead, humantraffickinghotline.org. That's another place that you can basically report as well. But all this is what I do. I teach people. This is my true north. And for me, it's scars to strength. So what can you do? You can host those awareness platforms or forums. You can support survivors. You can partner with local organizations, equip the youth ministries in your environments or your organizations. Invite people to teach them how do they recognize trafficking? What does authenticity look like right now? Take a moment to reflect. Maybe some of the things that I talked about, what loss or challenge has shaped your calling? And then, have you found your true north yet? And how can faith lead you to creating that safe space? I loved the prayer we started with, the compassion. This is not something, yes, I can be very, hands-on, but I also need to have compassion for the survivor or for the victim, and also compassion for the trafficker. Sometimes they don't deserve it, but we don't know where they're coming from. So I'm trying to beat this time. In the Q&A sessions, I'll be there to answer any questions you might have. And this is what I'll finish with. I'll read it word for word. Embrace your authentic leadership journey by aligning with your values and your faith, inspiring those around you to create a positive impact in your community. Let your ministry, your compassion, and your leadership be the compass that points others home. Be the lighthouse. And we are HopeWorks Global. We believe every life deserves freedom, dignity, and a chance to heal. And of course, you'll get all our information from Miss Terry and the organizers of the conference. Just want to say thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you all, to share my story of how I found my true north and where this true north is heading. We've impacted many families. Right now, we're working with almost 48 families from the last time that we met Miss Terry. So thank you very much. Have a blessed evening.
Oh, thank you, Linda, for sharing and on such a hard subject. And I do think people will want to join the breakout room at the end. And your videos are impactful, good education. So good conversation. And I have to say, you're professional keeping it in that time. That's good. Julie, are you there?
I'm here. Wow, Linda, I'm just like so, I don't know, touched by your subject, but also kind of like appalled at the same time, and realize how maybe naive we all really are on this subject. So we might have people right in front of us in the churches that we're serving or in the ministries that are suffering from this, and we may not know. So what a great job you did. Thank you so much. Unlike the other days that we've had, we are going to take our break after the second speaker. So just if anyone's questioning. So today I would like to introduce Donna Kremer, who is actually on our conference committee, to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Julie. I'm honored this afternoon to introduce our next speaker, Nancy Romanchek. Nancy holds a Master of Public Health degree and is a board-certified hospice and palliative care nurse. Nancy was lead editor for the Faith Community Nursing Scope and Standards of Practice, the new 4th edition revision. She is the Director of Education and Practice for HMA with an agenda of uniting the 3 primary FCN organizations to work together for the advancement of the specialty profession of faith community nursing and to increase visibility of FCNs in the community health arena as experts in whole person care. Nancy is a faculty affiliate of the Westberg Foundations of Faith Community Nursing course and an adjunct instructor at the Chicago Medical School at Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science for an experimental course in health equity. As an experienced FCN in the Catholic sector and the first official Muslim FCN, Nancy founded a 501(c) organization to introduce faith community nursing to the Islamic community. Nancy is executive director of the IFN Clinic at Islamic Foundation North, a Sunday free clinic serving the underserved and the uninsured of all religions and of all religions and ethnicities. Please join me in welcoming Nancy Romanchek.
Hello. Thank you, Donna, for that introduction. I'm very happy to be here with you today and part of a great HMA 2025 virtual conference. Terry, would you like me to share my slides? You're muted. I can do that.
Yes, unless you want me to share them.
No worries, I can do that.
Okay.
Screen sharing. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Remember, if you have any sound or video, you need to incorporate that before you share.
Okay. As we begin, I'd like to open this session by saying Bismillah, which means in the name of God. And as Muslims are inclined to do, to pray with transparency from the podium for guidance, the purification of my intentions, and forgiveness for any shortcomings on the content of this presentation. Amen. Granger Westberg's vision for faith community nursing. You know what, I think I might have to, yeah.
Nancy, make your slideshow go.
Yeah, I'm going to have to put my slideshow from the beginning. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move this up here to the top of that. I'm trying to move my slide up here one last time. Yeah, okay. All right. So Granger Westberg's vision for faith community nursing has always been as an interfaith model. So the question I would like to open with today is, where are the Muslim faith community nurses? Why open a free clinic in a mosque when a faith community is the perfect faith community nursing? And why staff the IFN clinic with Muslim medical students instead of Muslim faith community nurses? So these are questions I'd like you to keep on the back burner as we proceed through the presentation today. And I wanted to point out that this picture is AI generated. And it's really crazy because you look at the women in the slide and they look so real. They look exactly like women I work with every day. I have no financial interest to disclose. So welcome to the Health Ministries Association 35th Annual Conference, Finding Your True North, A Journey Towards Authenticity. The title of this presentation is Love the One You're With, which is taken from Stephen Still's release in 1970. And it's about appreciating what's in front of you and not pining away for what you can't have. There was a blog post beside the video of this song that stated, it's really about relationships, but I think the title works as a mantra for self-love too. And that was an interesting sidebar perspective that I hadn't thought of till I saw that blog. I love the imagery of this conference. It's finding your true north, since as you may know, wherever we are 5 times a day, Muslims pray towards the Qibla, which is the direction of the Kaaba or the sacred mosque in Saudi Arabia. And in the Chicago area, this is just north of East. The Kaaba is a cube-shaped building at the center of Islam's most sacred mosque, the Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and it's considered to be the house of God, which was built by the prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, and his son Ishmael, and it is the central destination for the Hajj pilgrimage. But what if, as a faith community nurse, your professional true north differs from the true north of the faith community that you serve? We know that moral distress is a phenomenon in which someone knows the right thing to do, the right action to take, but they're constrained from taking it. My initial faith community nurse experience as a parish nurse in the pretty early days of faith community nursing in a large, predominantly Germanic Catholic congregation in rural Wisconsin, as a cradle Catholic of German descent, I was a fish in water. Upon relocating back home to the greater Chicagoland suburbs, I found myself in a mosque community as an accidental but insidious convert. And since you can take the nurse out of the faith community, but you can't take the faith community out of the nurse, naturally, I approached the leadership of the mosque I now intended, expecting to start a faith community nurse program there as easily as I had in Wisconsin. But instead, I experienced a sort of a mild culture shock. In terms of the right action, I knew immediately, even before a formal community health assessment was done, that this faith community would benefit from the services of a faith community nurse. And when listening with my heart, I knew that they needed the services of a faith community nurse. However, what happened next was that the president looked at me a little bewildered, and he said that they would like to open a free clinic and they could use a nurse. So then I brought in the big guns. The Advocate Aurora Faith Community Nurse Coordinator and Faith Community Nurse legend, Nancy Durbin, came out to visit. He loved her and loved the fact that her brother-in-law was Dick Durbin. But he, the president at the time, and the entire EC or executive committee had no frame of reference for this concept. So I ended up as a co-founder of a free clinic I had personally not quite bought into, but which I thought could be a stepping stone to landing a faith community nurse position and program in this mosque community. So back to the slide here, the protracted moral distress. Did I feel moral distress? Absolutely. I felt frustrated. I felt anxiety. I became irritable. And I had read something about frustration at the time that said, if you're feeling frustration, it could be that you are not listening to the will of God, that you are pushing forth your own agenda. So that always stuck with me after I read that. But when you're in a state of knowing what you want to do, what should be done, how to do it, but you can't do it for reasons that are on beyond your control, that moral distress in a protracted setting can become compassion fatigue. And compassion fatigue for a nurse can be very serious. Reduced sense of empathy and compassion can become deep-rooted. And I definitely felt a little cynicism creeping in, anxiety, and high risk of burnout with compassion fatigue. It's not just like moral distress. When I was in hospice, I felt moral distress because I loved the work of hospice, but our resources were spread very thin. We were supposed to have our patient caseload capped at 14, and we were carrying 21 patients pretty regularly. That can be remedied by going to a different hospice that's better staffed or better resourced. Compassion fatigue may mean that you may have to leave the profession. Well, my feelings kind of coincided with COVID, which was kind of a godsend in that regard, in that it allowed me to step back and really focus on moral resilience. So on this slide, I have this little red arrow here, and you can say, or, and I drew a line here and said, or you can build moral resilience. So during COVID, I kind of intentionally kind of explored different perspectives, my own self-awareness, my strengths, and I developed a little bit more clarity and confidence and thoughtfulness about my approach to personal and relational integrity. And I went back after COVID. So our overarching objective today is to explore an adaptive approach to faith community healthcare in one Muslim American mosque community setting through the expansion of a free clinic. Why do I say in one? Because I can only tell you about one. I can tell you that mosques across America are, well, there are 3.5 to 7.5 million Muslims in the US, and they come from 75 different countries with no clear majority. And as we know, people tend to gravitate towards people that are like themselves. So in mosque settings, you'll see one mosque will feel like you've just walked into Lebanon, another like you're in Palestine, another like you're in Turkey. My mosque, the mosque of my husband and I that I'm going to talk about today, is Asian American. So I can only tell you this one clinic and this one experience. This picture on the screen is the Kaaba that we mentioned in an earlier slide. And you can see how everyone faces the Kaaba when they pray. I had the privilege of going to Umrah last year, not a full Hajj, just an Umrah, which is very similar to Hajj, but kind of a shorter version with not as many blessings or barakah, but a very similar experience. And it was really a fabulous experience. I remember after performing the Hajj, performing the Umrah, going up on the second floor of the masjid and looking down and thinking all across the world, people who are Muslim are praying towards the Kaaba. And here in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca, you see people circumambulating, going around 7 times this Kaaba. And the energy feeling that the prayer is directed to this spot and circling and the prayers going up to this spot was absolutely a very real experience. So today we're going to look at the background of faith community healthcare in one Islamic setting, compare the challenges establishing faith community nursing roles in this mosque community with the use of volunteer medical students. And then throughout, we're going to understand some of the salient religious and cultural practices and traditions to consider. And we've already been doing that. That's going to be integrated as we go. And then explore some of the challenges and future directions of faith community nursing in the Muslim sector. So, objective 1, discuss the background of faith community healthcare. Okay. I do love this little cartoon I found on Vecteezy. So the religious expectations of providing for the Umrah. So in many majority Muslim countries like Egypt, where my husband is from, if you get good grades in high school, you're funneled into one of 2 tracks. You become an engineer or you go into medicine, men and women equally. Education is free, but there is the understanding that you're going to take care of the people in your family, and extended families can be very large, and in your neighborhood. The economy in these countries is not like it is here. It's not that doctors aren't paid well, but they're not easy millionaires like we often see in the US. They're certainly upper middle class, but more importantly, they're highly respected. They are called doctor by everyone, even their own family members. And if one or more of your parents are doctors, you had better also make the mark. There are also religious overtones, which is part of that integrated spirituality that we speak of in Islam. There are blessings in taking care of the Umrah. And to clarify, the word Ummah implies the community of Muslims, but the actual definition is for all believers. So the community of believers is all of mankind. Layered on top of this, in the South Asian mosque community, is the fact that education is highly prized, such that the expectation is that young people don't even think about marriage until they have at least a master's level degree, with becoming doctor as the brass ring. And make no mistakes about it, there are certainly vestiges of the caste system in this community. I did not recognize this until my book club read the book called Caste, written by an African American woman in the US who said the word discrimination is a misnomer. What we really are seeing in the US is a caste system. And I read that book with great interest because it caused me to see things differently in America and also in the mosque where I am. Parents push their children to become doctors from a very young age, and unfortunately, sometimes too often, recognize that there's no other option than to become a doctor. Shortly after graduate school with my MPH, it was like around December 2019 to January of 2020, I was blessed to receive a mini grant, a seed money grant from Advocate, through our friend and fearless leader, Kirsten Peachy, for laying the foundations of faith community nursing in the Muslim community. I was so excited. I had high hopes. My first priority was to establish a 501(c) to receive the grant, and then to open a foundations course grant for nurses who are Muslim to become FCNs. And then my plan was to have them work with me to adapt the curriculum for the needs of the Muslim community. However, I couldn't find them. I was unable to locate nurses who were Muslim. I did eventually identify two outliers in our community. One was a convert who was already a nurse when she met her husband, who was a doctor in the hospital setting. They married and she never returned to work. And the second worked very hard on the night shift, and she had no extra time to invest in anything aside from her family priorities, which I get. I searched online and I found Arab American Nurses Association based out of Chicago. I pulled up the website only to find that their mission was to attract Arab American women into nursing. This was way farther upstream than I expected to go. Remember what I had discussed earlier about becoming a doctor. From an educational standpoint and from a perspective of respect, if you're a nurse, you're not a doctor. And you and I know that nurses in the US are highly educated, and nursing is a highly respected profession. In fact, nurses are the most highly trusted profession in the US by Gallup polls surveys for the last 21 years in a row, minus the year of 9/11 when firemen took the first place. We are ranked well above doctors. This certainly must be a selling point for religiously minded Muslim parents, right? Let us consider how nurses are perceived from a modesty standpoint. Particularly in some of the third world countries, nurses do a lot of dirty work. They see people's bodies. They even wash bodies of strangers. They empty bedpans, change Foley catheters. These tasks are considered haram. Remember, halal is what is permissible and lawful. It's usually applied to food, but it's also applied to actions. And haram is what is forbidden and unlawful. So we see that nursing in the US Muslim population at this point in time is a tough sell, but it's changing. Several years ago, I was at a baby shower in a mosque community, and I sat next to an Indian Asian woman, proudly announcing to me that her daughter had been admitted to nursing school. I was very encouraging and said, that's really a good choice. She can move laterally to find an area of practice she really likes. She can work many different shifts. Her pay would be good. She has room for advancement. She can become a nurse practitioner. And she looked at me and she said, oh no, she's using it to apply to medical school. Now, whether she knew that this was kind of a macroaggression against nursing, or whether she knew she was offending me, I don't know. I wasn't offended. It rolled right off my back. But over the last 2 months, I have been told by 2 separate moms from the mosque community on 2 separate occasions that their daughters are in nursing school. One in her 3rd year and one just entering because they want to be like me. The third year privately later admitted to me that she didn't get into medical school. She wants to be a nurse practitioner. But a third student helps me as a school nurse intern for the Sunday school students through the clinic. And she was also admitted to nursing school and starts in January. So things are changing. Remember this slide? Now you know. Well, let's look more closely at the last bullet point. Why staff the IFN clinic with Muslim medical students instead of Muslim faith community nurses? Well, because they're there in high numbers. They're highly motivated, they're enthusiastic, they're dedicated. But am I inadvertently betraying my loyalty to the nursing community? It may be more nuanced than this, but in my experience, it really boils down to competition for competing ethno-cultural family goals of becoming a doctor. I decided to listen with my heart and to welcome all students to the clinic at 3 levels: high school, college, med school, or grad school. And upon opening my doors, I am also open to their stories. Some of them sincerely and earnestly want to be doctors. Some want to be something else, anything else. But they must face breaking with tradition, culture, and religion and family to forge their own paths, and it's not easy. Whatever they decide, I want them to know that I am here as the executive director of the IFN Free Clinic, but informed by my practice of faith community nursing to listen with my heart without judgment, be a sounding board to them to discover their own path, and to have confidence as first-generation Muslim Americans to be whatever it is they want to be, even if it is a doctor or a nurse. Let's look at some future directions for faith community nursing in the Muslim sector. So I plan to continue to educate and raise awareness in the Muslim community about the highly respected profession of nursing in the US. I wear my pin. I don't know if you can see me, but I wear my Power of Nurses pin. This pin I obtained in Washington, D.C. this summer at as an organizational affiliate representing faith community nursing at the ANA gathering. And I plan to give a pin to every nurse in the community and student nurse that I find or meet. A funny thing happened to me this summer. This was June in DC. I got on the elevator in the hotel, headed down to breakfast and the first conference, and a young woman got on the elevator on the next floor. She smiled and said hello, and it turned out that she was the director of education and practice representing South Asian American Nurse Group. So this was really progress. But as I talked with her, I realized, at first I said, I am supposed to meet you. But then through our conversation, I realized that she was not Muslim, she was Hindu. Still, things are changing. So look what's happening. In the last year, we've gone from 1 nurse in the clinic, that's me, not even functioning as a nurse, but as a director, to 5 nurses in the clinic. 2 you see pictured here. This is Bernice and Janie. And they're master's level nurses who shadowed with me for their community health hours from Olivet Nazarene, and they both decided to stay beyond their semester. Both of them have connections in the Muslim community, although they are both Christian. One has a former husband who's Muslim, and the other has a grandfather who is Muslim. So they love to stay in the community and volunteer in the clinic and feel, a sense of camaraderie and understand the traditions and cultures. And I plan to call a nurse brunch in the mosque with a panel presentation, open to students and families to learn more about nursing in the US as a profession. I wanted to show you a couple pictures because pictures are worth 1,000 words. So these are some of the students in the clinic. We have 23 students. And in the center, you see this is Aurora. She speaks Spanish fluently, so she helps me at the food pantry with translation. Ahmed is our clinic manager. He's a 4th year. Maz and Abraham here are kind of modeling vital signs checks because we didn't want to take pictures of any patients. This is one of our dentists and Ahmed. Here you see Abraham and Ibed and also Hannah speaking to the community about vaccines. Ali helps us, he's at the high school level, but he helps set up the clinic and helps assist the dentist. And he just applied to a medical school program that does 4 years, and then they're guaranteed admission into medical school if their grades are good. This is Osman Sharif. He is neurodiverse, and he helps us set up the clinic with direction. He has a little trouble with executive functioning. And then here we see Janie with some of the students at our open house, which was just a few weeks ago. And then Hiba and Zara and Janie posing. Here's some photos from our volunteer appreciation picnic, which was held in July. This is the medical director's daughter, who's cute as a button. The children of the clinic manager. And here's some of our doctors and wives. And then here am I with the current medical director, the past medical director, and Ahmed, the manager. One of the physicians, Dr. Rabino. Whenever she comes, we see lots of women because they prefer to see female physicians. Here's more of here's our lead pharmacist, one of the doctors who specializes in breast cancer, and another pharmacist and wives. And then here is Usman with his grandma. Frequently, people will bring many generations to events. And here you see some of our board of directors, and then Uzma and her kids. And here's my husband, who's also a physician and one of our physicians who has since retired. And finally, there's a strong social component to the clinic. We like to, recognize people and go out and celebrate events. So when Zara graduated out of the clinic, as the students will do, and took a job at AbbVie and research, we recognize her. This is Fatima, who's a med tech, who took her position. And then Rowan and Abdul are two of our pharmacists who had a baby and moved to Indiana. So we gave them award with appreciation to the dynamic duo of pharmacy. And then Dr. Samad, and here's me with my husband, and Zara and Janie, and then one of our physicians and board members and daughters of the pharmacist. And here is many of us waiting in line at the Italian market at Sorrells. Does anyone have any questions?
Nancy, I don't have a question, but I do want to emphasize people be going, this is interesting. And you and I had talked about how does this relate to faith, community, nursing, and health ministry. And part of what I wanted to be able to emphasize, and I think you've done that, is that health ministry looks different everywhere. Just like our families look different. Not every family is the same. In a congregation, whether it's Christian or Muslim or Jewish, wow, our families look different. And so having a health ministry, having the fortitude, the initiative, and the faith to follow that is admirable, Nancy, to do something different. And I encourage people that are attending this to be open in their hearts to what God would be leading them to do in health ministry work wherever they are. And it's not just about nursing, it's about the doctors, it's about the social workers, it's about the people who just have a heart for those in their congregation, in their community.
Yes.
Really quick, Nancy, can you tell us once, I don't know if you still have the grant, or once the grant was, finished, where do you get your supplemental resources from to keep the clinic going?
And so the clinic is a completely free clinic. We function with all volunteers. We have 10 board certified physicians and 3 dentists and 3 pharmacists, and now 4 nurses, 5 including me, all who are no charge at all. But we're a Sunday pop-up clinic. So we set up the clinic on Sunday morning and we take it down on Sunday afternoon. We welcome walk-ins, we take appointments, and we continue to grow. We just hired a volunteer nutritionist who starts in January after she graduates. And I also interviewed a woman from the community who has experience as a clinic manager in an FQHC. So she's going to help bring us up to regulatory status. In a free clinic, we're not regulated by anyone, but we must follow best practices, which of course we do, and we're protected by Good Sam's laws. Everyone still carries their own malpractice, but we have requirements under that. You know, we have to post the statement and have everyone sign consents and sign that they received a notice of that. So we're not transactional. There's no exchange of money. When people need referrals to go get labs, we have a contract with ACL. So they go there, they give us charitable rate. We usually spend $10 to $20 per lab, which is really nothing compared to what the going rate is. And radiology diagnostics, we have a place that gives us a charitable rate. So we can always seem to find something. We find free mammograms, and we work with the Zakat committee, which Muslims donate a portion of their income every year for charity. So we have a Zakat committee at the mosque. If somebody is in need for something that isn't covered, that can't find a way to cover it, we usually can find someone to help with those costs. We get mini grants here and there. We just had a mini grant for the students. That's how we bought the green lab coats that were monogrammed from the Illinois Association of Free and Charitable Clinics. So that was a mini grant for $750. And then out of that, there's requirements. You know, you have to write a report and send them pictures that they can post on their website and demonstrate how that met the goals of that, which was to, you know, bring your community together and different things like that.
I have a question, if I might.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, I guess it is. It's good to see you all. Nancy, thank you so much for sharing your information, and I've learned some new cultural insights I did not know, so thank you for that. And I just give you kudos for exemplifying what I'm a minister, so I don't live in as a nurse, but what I see you exemplify so many of the strengths of nursing, one of which is you don't give up when you hit roadblocks. And you are developing partnerships all over the place with the resources in your community to make this available to people for the medical needs that they might have. I'm wondering whether, where is this housed? Is this actually part of your mosque community's outreach to the community at large?
So interesting question. Thank you for your kind words. We share space with the funeral. So several years ago, there was a member of our community whose mom died, and he couldn't find a funeral home that could do the ritual body washing. So he made a large donation for an addition to be put on our mosque, where we can have the family who is mourning and the ritual body washing. We have a morgue there with a refrigerator and the sink and everything needed. And it's a lovely, clean, new space, and attached to it is a waiting room. So every Sunday, we convert the waiting room into the registration room and waiting room. We convert the body preparation area into a physician consult room. And we convert one of the classrooms off the men's shoe room. As you know, people remove their shoes before they go pray. And that becomes our 5-minute assessment room. And the men's shoe room is my office. I put up a screen, and I have a student intern who we see students from the Sunday school, because when you're working with all immigrants, things come up. So the students were coming into the clinic, and we wanted to separate out that population. So now they come into this little nursing office in the men's shoe room, and that's also my office. And then we take everything down at the end of the day. So it's really about space. We could get bigger if we had a place. And right now there's a campaign for expanding the mosque. Mosques all over the US are running out of space. There's no place to park because the population is growing so fast. And the ironic thing is, many mosques that we go to are actually churches that have been refurbished because a lot of the churches are combining 2 or 3 churches into one. Whereas people are aging, the next generation are becoming secular spiritualists and not returning to church. So those vacant churches are being purchased by Muslims. It's a kind of an interesting thing that's happening. And so as we expand our mosque, we've been promised an actual physical space for a clinic in phase 2. So in 5 years, we'll have space. And by then I hope to have a replacement so that I can retire. Because if they move to full time, it's too much for me. Oh, you know what I mean? A weekend pop-up clinic allows me to teach during the week and do different community projects with HMA. If I was in a full-time clinic, I would want someone to take my place that was devoted to it. Yeah, we fought really hard for that funeral space because when we first introduced the idea, people were saying Arabs are not going to come into a morgue space for a physician consult. They just won't do it. And I checked with the Board of Health to make sure that we could do it. We have terminal body washing. We use PPE for the body washing and whatnot. And so we put screens up on both sides of the room so that the refrigerator is covered on one side and the sink on the other. I had a grant last year, a pretty good grant, and we got an exam table with curtains. So the far end of the room, we have a curtain with an exam table and an EKG machine and everything that's needed. And it doesn't look like a morgue at all. If there is a funeral, because Muslims bury within 24 hours, so sometimes things move pretty fast, we cancel the clinic out of respect. It's the only option.
Okay, Nancy, will you be joining us in the breakout rooms?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I know that I've actually been to the space when you gave us a tour many years ago, but just such an amazing program and how much further it's come than the last time that we saw it. So kudos to you. And I echo what Karen said. So at this point, we are going to take a 10-minute break. And now I would like to introduce Denise Beaker, who was our past president of HMA, and she'll be introducing to you our final speaker.
This is so exciting for me because Debbie Harbison is one of my favorite people. By the way, if Debbie ever says, "Do you want to?" just say yes. That's been my experience with Debbie. So take that as good advice. Let me tell you about Debbie. Debbie is a holistic nurse leader, a coach, an educator, a speaker, and a senior partner of the Holistic Nursing Exploration Hub, LLC. Yes, she does a lot. And she has a diverse background spanning perioperative care, geriatric care management, caregiver well-being, and faith community nurse. She has always been, for me and for many others, an inspiration for healthcare professionals and encouraging people to bring holistic wisdom, soulful presence, and whole person care into all aspects of life and healing. Debbie is engaging, and she engages nurses and caregivers in discovering their innate well-being and teaches practical skills for presence and authentic connection. Her vision is to advance a worldwide movement towards interdisciplinary, heart-centered healing within healthcare and beyond. And before we move on, Sue Rowe was supposed to be joining us as well. She had an unexpected acute illness and is unable to join us. So we are in Debbie's competent hands for this presentation. Welcome, Debbie.
Wow, thank you. It's a lot to live up to. Thank you. Yes. Sue, just to share, she's very disappointed that she's not here today for many reasons, not feeling well, but most of all, we've been working on this and so excited about having this presentation with all of you. And it was just such a joy to find out that we were accepted. So, yeah, so she appreciates all your kind thoughts and yeah, so maybe in the future we'll have an opportunity to share Sue with you. So, thanks, Terry. So thank you very much for the claps and the welcomes and everything. I appreciate it. So let's see, am I able to share my, should be good here? Yep. Thank you. Oh, this team is just like right on it. So we're good. All right, let me kind of arrange my screen here so I can see what I'm doing. So let me fix my view. Okay. I had it fixed so I could see all of you. So the title of this, is you've probably read on the agenda, is Purpose and Passion, and strengthening your caring with heart muscle. So Sue and I have found in our work out in the community with healthcare providers, it all kind of started with nursing. We're both nurses. And so back in, it was right after, it was probably about 2022, something like that, we started really focusing on purpose and passion with nurses. We felt that besides, and this is like totally speaking to the choir here, that there had been this deviation, this non-alignment with spirit, and nurses were really losing their way. And so we did some research and started focusing on what could we do to bring people home? Like, why did they ever become a nurse in the first place? And I am telling you, the presentations that we did in person, also online, oh my gosh, it was just so heartwarming. And the tears spilled, and people would say things like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought of that forever. And so we thought, there's really a great theme in this, because both Sue and I had always kind of circled back to why we had become nurses. But more than that, what did we have? What did we look for in our purpose and passion in serving? It didn't matter what role we were. Maybe we were the next door neighbor or whatever. It didn't have to be a professional role. And so we just started exploring this whole vast knowledge of, from the business world, and then obviously into spiritual and religious world, this idea of purpose and passion. And how do we reconnect with that? Once again, I'm speaking to the choir here, and many of you may have already connected in that way. And so I'm really interested as we go through this for you to share anything that comes up. It's that thing that where we think we're the only one that thought this or had a question about it. And then we're in a group and it's like, yes, or someone can build upon some little thought that we had. And so we'll talk about that as we go on and how to really create this opportunity. All right. So again, learning objectives. Oh, let me get rid of the speaking here. Okay. What did I do? Oh, wait a minute. I clicked on the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Let's go back. Okay, so identifying three of your purposes for developing a health ministry in a faith community. Use 2 passion-building techniques to empower self and others, and describe 2 strategies that can be used to strengthen your desire and skill to care with heart. And so those are just learning objectives. We'll get into this. I think when I went back, I must have done something.
You need me to share, Debbie?
Well, let me see here. Let me give you one more chance. Thank you for the offer. There.
Oh, it's okay.
Thank you. See,
You're
just
you're doing
your voice.
you're doing fine. Relax. It's all good.
So, one person that I thought would be great to start this off with is Meister Eckhart, who did quite a bit of work of speaking, to everyone, the lay people, and just exploring how your soul can awaken to God, to your deepest source, how important contemplation was. And I just love this quote because it has been something that before I had read it, I realized that I had been exploring this myself. And I just love that he put it in words. What we plant in contemplation, we reap in action. And I think we've all had that experience, whether it's a prayer, a dream, a vision. And once we are in that and we're focusing on that, and this becomes something that we repeat in our life, we then see some actions that come from that. Somehow, early on in my life, I got this message that I needed to work hard to figure out what I needed to do. Thank goodness nursing just was in this place where it came to me. And I was so blessed to have, the next steps always unfolding before me. I made some kind of veered off some branches, and I found that maybe I wasn't really expressing myself in that role. So, but I would come back to this, and I think if we can all remember and think about a time in our life when this has happened for us. So I'd like to begin with just a centering meditation. So got this kind of out of the way, learning objectives and everything. And this is going to be just kind of coming together. So sit back and feet on the floor. If you're standing, that's probably an obvious suggestion. And just kind of come to what we're going to do is like a centering meditation and just kind of come together as a group, because I really believe like the spirit is moving among us as we're exploring purpose and passion. And even if we have this for ourselves or we're exploring a new area, coming together with a group of people that are looking in that same direction can be very, very powerful. So just gently close your eyes or lower your gaze, whatever feels comfortable for you. Just want to invite you to just take a steady, deep breath in and out. And as you're breathing in and out, knowing that you're coming to this sacred space together as a group. You've been together maybe several days, maybe it's just been the past hour or so, whatever. We're coming together in this group. And we're all here in a spirit of care and service. Maybe this was something you needed for yourself. Maybe it's not so much and what you're going to bring back to your community. Maybe this is just learning to really care and service yourself. And as you continue to feel the support around you, kind of let your shoulders relax, hands resting easily somewhere, your jaw soften, and know you are held in this group with steady, safe awareness. Now bring your attention to your heart space. And I invite you to imagine a warm light there. Maybe it's like a little candle. Maybe it's a glow. And as you imagine this warm light, you can maybe give meaning to it as love, compassion, maybe a healing presence. And with each inhale, breathe gently into this light. It's as if you take a breath and that light, that glow, whatever you've imagined, expands. And with each exhale, allow any tension or distraction to kind of melt away. And as you let this light grow brighter, it will fill your whole being with calm and strength. And you can now imagine it like radiating outward And as this light, this glow radiates outward, it could be reaching those you love and care for. It could be reaching others in this conference that you've maybe connected with. Maybe it's the wider community that you serve somewhere in the world. Or that you just are allowing this light and glow to encompass those that you just imagine need comfort and care. Just breathe in and breathe out, allowing it to get larger and glowing. And then when you're ready, sometimes this is the hard part, to have people come back now. So just taking one more deep centering breath. There could be the way to silently affirm, I am grounded in love. I am centered in spirit. I am here to serve with compassion. And when you're ready, open your eyes and return, bringing this sense of presence with you. So it looks like I got most of the folks back. So what is purpose? And now I am going to need to move this because you're not going to be able to see the screen here. There we go. Whoops, let me. There we go. So what is purpose? Purpose, and again, this is what Sue and I pulled up from like research in all areas. Anything that had purpose with it, we were looking at. So purpose is more of a future-oriented sense of direction. And it's involving your central goals, your aspirations, all those things that kind of organize life and motivate action. Purpose is more about direction and action. It answers questions like, where am I going? What do I want to accomplish or contribute? What is guiding my choices? So the other thing that's really interesting now in the last year, and it was probably much earlier too, but I wanted to keep this like with the most recent research. So in 2025, 2024, 2025, they really looked at purpose is when people identify with a purpose, it's a predictive measure of better health outcomes. So they find that in groups that have purpose, there's lower dementia risk, there's greater longevity, greater better relationships, which probably has a lot to do. I mean, I know most of you can see how these could all interconnect as well. Relationships, lower dementia risk, you've got a support system. But it's just interesting that you can share with people, you can go to this idea of purpose and maybe make an impact in how their behaviors are changed. So purpose is not a destination. It's a journey. It's a practice. It's accessible at any age if we're willing to explore what matters to us. And I think one of the examples is in some of the groups that I've worked with, for instance, caregivers. Some things happen that they are there to someone in their family or, friends or whatever is someone that they need to care for. Now, they may not have thought at that point over several years of caring for this person that that's their purpose. Maybe it was a child that was born with disabilities or someone developed dementia. And they're thinking, this is not what my life was planned for, and we know all the grief and loss that can come through that. But once a person has decided that there is purpose in it, then it kind of helps them guide some behaviors and direction that they might need. It also, after their role changes, maybe they're no longer needed to be that caregiver, then they do realize from the gifts of purpose, not maybe from the caring. Some people never are able to reconcile with having had that role, and that's okay. The idea is that there were some actions that came from that because that was their purpose, to care for that person. And they can then use that information, that knowledge, that experience, that understanding to maybe direct what they would maybe in the future want to use as purpose. We see this gentleman here with, the second generation there, or third or whatever. And, we don't know what his role was in the past, but right now, this is like something that maybe fulfills him. And so we can see how that having that idea of what is purpose can somehow give a guiding light to others. So I wanted to just kind of take a moment here and just in like maybe a word or a sentence, anybody here want to share what their purpose was, or what are your purposes for developing a health ministry in a community? And you don't have to, or you could just reflect on your own.
I always hate stepping forward when I'm leading this, but part of the reason of developing a health ministry or working to develop a health ministry partnership in the county I live in is recognizing that I, as a master's prepared person and attending different programs, and the lip service that was given to the idea of the faith communities need to have this information, and it never went there, called my heart to maybe we need to do something about that.
Oh, that's a great example. When we get into passion, there's a lot of branches that can come off of that. That's great, Terry. Thank you. Anyone else?
Well, when I started I'm Helen Bagwanda. When I started my health ministry some 30 some years ago, I had no idea such a thing existed. I just had this passion of wanting to share my skills with my faith community. And that was how that ministry started.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's another one that you'll see when we get to passion, that there's many opportunities to see where that was aligned. Thank you, Helen. Anyone else? Is there something in the chat? Just want to be sure I'm not missing anyone. Oh, here, Sarah, serving God by serving others with gifts given to me. Cheryl, to pass on the education that I received from my school education and graduate school. Great. Yep, these are all wonderful. Deborah Palmer, as a previous speaker shared, oops, guys are adding and I've lost you. As a previous speaker shared, experience of pain and passion to help lessen pain and passion for others. Good. Bringing God's hope. Ooh, good one, Hazel. Jolinda, being an advocate for those in my faith community and their health needs and intentional care of spirit. Wow, this is wonderful. Oh, Denise, combining faith and health. Yep. Amy, seeing so many needs of the poor, elderly population. Started an FFCN program in our local church. Beautiful, Amy. Julie, to connect with others in a practical and personal way. Yep. Mary Beth, to provide spiritual care to help promote spiritual well-being. And Mary, to serve people and bring God to others. Good one, both Mary Beth and Mary. Regina, the power of presence. Being there with someone. There's an activity later. It's awesome. Giving the community a place for compassionate care and information. Good one, Diane. And Carrie, serve those in need with intention and care of the spirit in all interactions. Wow, you guys are awesome. Not that I didn't think you weren't going to come up with these, but I think it's just lovely to kind of share those. If people want to, take a look at those in the chat again, there's some real gems in there. They're all really great. So I don't think I missed anybody. We're ready to move on here. So Viktor Frankl, from his work in from surviving the Holocaust, when in his readings, what you see is what made a difference from someone to survive the Holocaust to survive a death camp came with what was meaning and purpose. And so life is never made unbearable by circumstances, only by lack of meaning and purpose. And I can't think of anyone or any people that have survived that could maybe not share that with us. So when you read A Man's Search for Meaning, you read how he describes, he could predict who was going to survive, maybe not because of what was going on the outside. He would literally see the hope leave their eyes, and he would know that, there was not their life was not going to be there very long for that person. And he really tied that sense of meaning to hope. That you could always see that there would be a possibility of going on. So purpose is the driving force behind all great achievements. This is coming out of the business world. When you have a clear sense of purpose, nothing can stop you. So let's now take a look at passion, because I think this is where sometimes we get kind of confused, like purpose, passion, what's the difference? So I'd like to share a little bit of a difference. Passion is the fuel. That's the emotion that drives your dreams and aspirations and even your everyday actions. When you all gave those examples in the chat and verbally shared, there is an element of, was it joy, love, caring, compassion for others? I mean, all of these things kind of, sometimes we can't even put them in a category of that emotion. It's just that our heart wells up, and you're touching on that role of passion that you could find through your purpose. And there's just no words for it. Have you ever had a moment where you're just, like tears well up in your eyes, or you think to yourself, oh my gosh, there's nothing more that I would rather do than to be here in this moment doing this work? So passion is just not the enthusiasm, because I don't know about you. Sometimes when I get, an idea of something that I really want to do, I'm just like, oh, I'm so enthusiastic about it. But I find if there isn't that passion to kind of guide it and fuel it, then it comes to where I've heard other people say this too. It's like squirrel, like, oh, that's a great idea. We need that. And then probably like after you think about it, like the next day, you're like, why did I suggest that? So that's another way of kind of determining the difference there. So it's a persistent, powerful force that shapes the behaviors, that motivates the actions, and that can define your identity. So passion is often what keeps you going, regardless of what lies ahead. Certainly starting a health ministry, yeah, at first, I'll just speak to whenever you start a new project. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll be there. I'll help you, Debbie, or whatever, because they're caught in that purpose passion dichotomy, right? And then they don't show, but it's okay, because you've got that enthusiasm to do it. That, well, that person who first, maybe that was their only role. They were just to inspire me to go ahead and talk to other people. That was it. And so then you just know that you have this purpose to create whatever that vision is. And then somebody else rolls along and really supports you. So, having said that, now this doesn't have to depend on what your purpose was, and it can be something other than anything that we're talking about with health ministries. Because you'll see what you might identify as being passionate, when you tell somebody about it, they're like, well, what's that got to do with, whatever your idea was for the purpose, And but there's a thread in there. There is something that keeps you coming back. It's what gives you that fuel, like I said, that, just makes you all excited again. So in a word or two sentence, anybody want to share? What are you most passionate about? And by just saying it, it might inspire someone else to say, oh, yeah, that's why I like this, You can just unmute and share or put it in the chat again if you'd like.
At everything, this is Karen McDonald. I look at everything through the lens of caring for this amazing creation that is in such distress and of which we are a part. And so kind of what actions am I taking, and are they helping or hurting this creation and all of my relations?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, Karen. Thank you. Thank you. I see Gwendolyn is
Cheryl,
oh, yes. Go ahead, Cheryl.
what makes me most passionate is being able to identify and see all the need in our communities now. And it's kind of like a driving force that keeps me wanting to go, even though a lot of times, like you say, you get tired, but it motivates you to keep going.
Yeah. See, so you're recognizing that, right? Where that passion is, that's the fuel. Yeah. Yeah. You may have some days that you're tired and, like, what was I thinking? But that's okay. That's part of it, because that comes back. I always use like that, because when I start feeling like that, it's like, oh, that's because I'm up here too much in this biophysical computer. It's time to quiet. It's time to come back. It's a message, and then you get back to that passion. You start feeling the fuel again. And then, don't you know, something new pops up, right? New idea, better idea than what was before. Mary, I see your hand up.
Yes. I have a group that meets on Friday mornings, and it's called Boundaries, with the book Boundaries by Townsend and Schutz, is it? And they it goes into relationships mainly, and so I invited 8 people, and 4 women showed up, and so it's 4 of us. And now I'm thinking of having a retreat in the fall on forgiveness and healing for a lot of women, and mainly women, but there's some men involved too.
Oh, Mary, your passion in that. What do you think that is? Being with people?
To bring healing to people and
Okay.
God's presence.
Yeah.
Their identity with God the Father.
Yes.
And more clear vision of themselves as a good person, and loving that they're loved.
Oh, right. Yep. I like that. If anybody else, go ahead and I'm looking at some of the chat here, being with those in difficult times. Jean Raymond, advocate for older adults with many chronic health concerns. Sarah, Matthew 25. Mary Beth, listening to sacred stories. So I'm going to go back to you, Sarah. Do you mind sharing? What is it in Matthew 25 with passion? Or no? Okay, I was just interested in how you wanted to share that. Mary Beth Desmond, listening to sacred stories. Amy, offering spiritual listening. Accompany, let's see, Irene says, accompanying those in whatever they're going through. Francis, I am passionate about bringing happiness into people who need to know that people care. There you go. Oh, Julie gave that one a thumbs up. Pam Hurley, for those moments when we are able to genuinely connect with one or more, or one with one or many through presence and help, someone realize and believe in their dignity and worth. Yep. Terry, recognizing the beautiful and positive in people, any person. There you go. Yep. These are all great. So purpose and passion. Purpose is what will guide you to your best self, is another way of looking at it. I've kind of given you different quotes and different ways of looking at this because someone may be challenged or struggle with one way or another. And so something else may speak to you. So that's why we've got business, we've got spiritual, we've got religious. Purpose and passion. Purpose is what will guide you to your best self, and the passion will keep you there. Howard Thurman, my guy. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So you can, another way to look at this, passion as aliveness. That's what makes you come alive. And then when you follow through, give the actions and that, purpose as service. So why Sue and I, Sue had been working for some time with this idea of passion as a framework. And what I brought to the conversation was I really felt that when you followed, you'll see passion is an acronym that we've got for some elements. And when you work within that framework, you find that, you're always in your heart. And this way of looking at the world or looking at your life, looking at your service, just will always kind of help bring you back to your heart. And like I said, we started this with nurses, and it was really an easy transition by doing that. So I'm going to take you through that framework, and towards the end, we've got an activity that will kind of explain this a little better. I'm just kind of looking at the time here. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. So here's the framework. I'm not going to spend any time reading on the framework, but you can just see how it's, passion is the acronym for these words that we're going to really get into. So perspective. What is your perspective on life? That's our first P, and what you do. Examine what life has been, is now, what you would like it to be. Is it positive, or does it need some adjustment? There's like no judgment on this. Our perspective comes from our life experiences. I mean, we could go back to when you're an embryo and as things, we feel, we touch, we feel these emotions and everything, it starts to adjust our perspective, and those would argue it's in our DNA and so on. But in real life, what we're dealing with every day, just knowing that we have a particular perspective, which gives us an understanding that other people have a particular perspective. And I can't think of a better example than that what's going on in our world. It's not just even the US, it's what's going on in our world. Everybody thinks that what they're saying and doing is bringing them to, it's their perspective of where they're aligned in life. And you could go so far, my personal belief is we all want to be loved, and and whatever you're doing, you think you're bringing yourself closer to love. Somebody else's perspective on that maybe, how could you see that or think that, that person is wanting to be closer to love? But I truly believe that. It's just that that's their way of expressing it. Attitude, reflecting on your attitude. Passion requires a positive approach to all that comes your way. Passion cannot live and grow in the barren field. It must be nurtured. And going back to that idea of when I had mentioned Viktor Frankl, he talks quite a bit about attitude. And so having an attitude of hope. And I remember him saying, I'm a big one about laughter. I love, humor, laughter. And one of the things that was so powerful when I read his book was he always remembered what his wife's laugh was like. Now, at this time, he had no idea whether she was dead or alive, but he felt that to bring hope and knowing that he would be reunited with her at some point, he kept that sound of her laughter. He could remember what that was like. Sensitivity. Now, this is a great thing to check in, even in the midst of a conversation or in listening to someone else. Are you sensitive to yourself or others? Maybe what you're listening to or being around is not what you need at the time. There's nothing wrong with removing yourself from it and taking care of yourself. Your passion can be stalled if you have a blind eye to yourself and those around you. Become self-aware as to how you come across to others. Those you are sensitive to can become promoters of your dreams and passion. Sometimes this is also connects with opportunity. But being sensitive to others, listening to someone, oh my gosh, we share the same passion about whatever that is. And that is how we then can possibly create a community or create a partnership in doing something. I know for Sue and I, we've known each other many, many years, but one of the things that we knew was our passion about this idea of people knowing their best selves, how to be with other people, how to be present with each other. And we just felt at the time it was so important for nurses. And like I said, and continuing to talk to other healthcare providers, especially in education. We've done a lot of work there. So savor each moment of your life. This is always a real reminder. You have 1,440 minutes each day, and they go quickly. You cannot retrieve the ones that have passed. But how rich, if we're thinking of time linear, then this can get kind of scary. But if we think of it in a more quantum, more deep way, one moment in passion, one moment being in love or being present with someone can stretch where it seems as if it's been many, many more minutes than living in one moment of not being aware. Then it's like gone. So just to be aware of that. Be in the moment, breathe in, smell, taste, appreciate every single one of them. So this is the exercise I kind of mentioned to you. So as we talked about passion and purpose and how they strengthen this heart muscle of caring, this is one activity that has been found to be very helpful. So place your hand over your heart, just to be in the location, and take a deep, calming breath. And as you continue to breathe, imagine your breath flowing in and out from your heart. This would allow your neck, let your neck and shoulders relax. And now set an intention for your interactions today, or the rest of the day, the evening, or then for tomorrow if you want to work on tomorrow already. You got today done. Think of a single word or phrase you wish to embody. So some examples are compassion, grace, presence, lightheartedness. And when you're doing this, when you set the intention for it, and as we go through the rest of the exercise, what happens is, let's just take lightheartedness for an example. So my intention is lightheartedness. It's going to be what I'm going to follow through the rest of the day. Doesn't mean I can't give some compassion and grace, but just focus on the one for right now. That means as I know that that's my intention, things are going to pop up that I probably would not have seen. Maybe there's a joke that I know only Denise would get. So I want to send that to her. Maybe there's something that really is funny with some, maybe there's some, animals out where I'm walking that are doing some crazy stuff. Here in Arizona, we've got road runners, and the other day we saw a quail take on a road runner. Totally surprised. Nobody got hurt in the effort, but it was just funny to watch how, they stood back, took measure of each other. It can be something lighthearted. You're looking at puppies, babies, whatever. You'll just start to see this. Silently repeat, may I care with heart, offering lightheartedness to myself and others. Like that could be your kind of like your mantra for the rest of the day. May I care with heart, offering lightheartedness to myself and others. As you continue to breathe deeply, allow yourself to feel and visualize your chosen intention, which can flow effortlessly from your heart out into the space around you. You know how we're then changing the energy. It becomes a prayer. And this is flowing back into your heart. We know that this creates this coherence in our body with our heart. Hold this feeling for a few moments. Notice the subtle shift within you. And this is something you can repeat all day long, all the moments before you begin to connect with someone. So I'm going to ask you now to take one more breath, and we'll move on. So the next in the acronym of passion is interest. Cultivate your interest. In doing this, you need to be really interested in pursuing what you feel passionate about. Now, you can be passionate about many things, and it doesn't mean that it has to be something that you create as a project or a purpose or whatever. It could just be something you just so enjoy reading about, or being around. Sometimes being in nature, being with animals, we can be very passionate about it. And it's just so satisfying to maybe watch a documentary on something. If it's animals, going to the zoo, going to the Humane Society, participating in any event that has animals or whatever. And it doesn't mean that you need to create that program, like I said, but it's just that it's a passion of yours, painting, whatever it could be. These are the things that when you identify it, then you can cultivate how you experience it. So become interested in everything that comes your way, because who knows, it might become the passion you were looking for. If somebody is really struggling, I see this a lot. As I mentioned, I'd worked with caregivers because they're so worn out many times when the person that they have cared for has passed. And they're looking for something else. And sometimes, I've worked for several major institutions that have worked with people for dementia or neurological diseases. And people may look to these caregivers as, oh, you've had this experience. You could help us with a support group. That person, that was not their passion in the first place. They served a purpose for that. They want to now explore another chapter, shall we say, in their life. And it becomes really difficult to find that because they're so exhausted. And this can happen for anyone. You could, as you age, I don't have the energy for this. Could be a young person that, you're bombarded with all this information and technology and everything. And you hear, oh, you have to find your purpose and you have to find your passion. So just allowing people to be interested and what's going on. Just, what captivates you? What, when you watch something or you talk to people about something, what gets you excited? Just asking those simple questions, and to yourself as well. Opportunity, seek opportunity, become aware of them, and do not let obstacles, real or my big one, imagined, get in the way. These opportunities are avenues that can ignite and engage your passion. So, an example is, again, I'll refer to this. I'm pointing to my head. If those of you are not seeing this biophysical computer up here. So you're either in prayer or you're riding your bicycle or you're taking a shower and this amazing idea comes to you and it's aligned with your passion because you're like really excited. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it happens to do that. You get really excited. And then before you know it, that's out in the ethers. That's in God's land. That's your spirit, your source talking to you. And then you want to bring it home because you're like, well, then what do I do with that? How would my next step? And then you hear this voice. Who do you think you are? Like maybe it's about writing a book. I want to write a book. And then you hear this voice. You don't have time for that. You don't know the first thing about writing a book. You've heard all these people talking about writing a book. It is so hard. There are classes. There is this. There is that. What are you talking about? You need to just finish your shower, get out of the shower, and get to work. So that could happen. Just speaking as a friend shared with me. So anyway, so that kind of conversation goes on, knowing that that is just that part of your brain that's like, Debbie, I'm here to take care of you. Before you do something really wild, let's just be grounded and look at this. So I just know that that's what the talking is. And I ignore that because that is not where being creative comes from. That's not where my love for other people and being in this world, this is only repeating stuff I already know, or I heard, or I read. I already got that. I need to have the fresh, what do you need to do next? So giving the example of the book, I may think that seems overwhelming. Then I'm just out there talking to my new neighbor that moved in. Turns out she's like she has a learning management platform. And so she creates courses all the time. Now, this part didn't really happen, but when I was like thinking about the book and everything, I thought, well, maybe what I really want to think about is a course. Like, so I'm looking at this and I'm talking to her. And then I came back to the idea of a book. And then people came into my life that said, oh, I can help you with that. So this is what I'm talking about with the opportunity, just being there open to it. When you're open to that, so here's this great quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. At any moment, you have a choice that either leads you closer to your spirit or further away. Are you going to listen to the voice in your head? You can all name it whatever you want. Some people say big S for self or small s or whatever. But the point is, we know that there's this voice that talks to us about stuff. So you can either listen to that or you can say, no, I want to be back in that space when I was riding my bike through the trees and I heard this idea. That's where I want to be. What do I need to do? Well, I just need to keep my mind kind of quiet. That might mean more prayer, reflection. So speaking of reflection, a reflection prompt could be, and you don't have to answer this, but in your ministry, as a group, in your ministry, what is one small choice you can make this week that brings you closer to your spirit? And how might that ripple out to those you care for? Now, you've just come off this, eventually you'll be off this great conference, and you've heard people speak about all different ideas or thoughts. Something has come up for you at some point. So maybe as you've maybe made a note of something, or maybe right now you're like, oh yeah, What did that person say about blah, blah, blah? So kind of grab onto that and see, is that bringing me more back to spirit? Or is that listening to my head that says, oh, that's like really a tough thing to do. That's not what passion and purpose have to do with. And then there's the last one. Last word for this is nourish. Nourish your passion. Focus on, think, dream about, act on your passion every day. So it's with this continued energy that your passion stays lit. So going back to it, maybe it's a sticky note. Maybe it's something that, as you do your readings, you have a bookmark or something in there that keeps bringing you back to that. Because whether it's something that happens right now or in the future, what a beautiful way to live. Maybe it's something that just like never happens. But in our vision, in our image, imagining it, our body doesn't know the difference. When you're imagining something and you're thinking of love and compassion in that, we know physiologically your body's like, I'm right there. I'm doing that. And yet you can be in that space. It's a space that allows you to enjoy life, and that maybe something else comes, another action or something comes, and you realize, oh, what I had initially thought, my basic passion, what I initially thought was my purpose. Oh, that's okay. I can let that go because that's not fitting what this is right now. But being open to opportunities and being interested in what other people are doing maybe will lead you to a different path. So which passion element speaks most to your faith and calling? So just kind of take a look at this right now, because next thing we're going to do is an exercise. So perspective, which helps us see dignity and hope. Attitude, it shapes our spirit of service. Sensitivity can kind of tune us into unspoken needs for ourselves and for others. Savoring a moment, savoring time deepens our gratitude for simple blessings. If there's something that I did it quite frequently for a while. Every morning started off with it's a YouTube video, and it's about gratitude. So if you go on YouTube and you put in gratitude, many of you have probably already seen it, but it's lovely. It's 10 minutes and it's just a beautiful visual of it, and just finding something that speaks to you to start the day with gratitude. Interest in others honors the uniqueness of life. Opportunity transforms moments into sacred service. And then I shouldn't say most important, but I find when you're doing this, nourishing your body, mind, and spirit, it naturally flows to those that we serve. And all of these other things come from their perspective, attitude, sensitivity, savor, interest, opportunity. They all just become natural. Now, it's not to say that you might not have, I'm not saying you don't have certain of these elements. You have them all day long. It's just that what we appreciated in creating it as a framework, that you might see, you're a little lower on this, or you don't give attention to this. So that's kind of why we put it together as a framework. So I'd like to use as a passion activity, I call this the companioning as a passion activity. And the idea behind this is that you can take any one of the elements of the passion framework and use it as the activity. So the steps are pretty much you quiet your mind, choose one element. So it's, they're written right there: perspective, attitude, sensitivity, savor, interest, opportunity, or nourish. So you'll just for the activity, just pick one. Then you're going to reflect on it silently for about 60 seconds, one of those elements. And how you use it is what I think of as the companioning journey. The companioning journey is guiding someone or being guided yourself, just being with them. It's not talking them through it or anything. It's just being with them. Then you're going to capture your insight in a single sentence. For example, sensitivity allowed me to truly understand and support someone struggling with their faith. Doesn't mean you said anything. That sensitivity could be just sitting with them and just being quiet. Knowing the sensitivity was knowing that that's all this person needed. They just wanted someone to be quiet with them. And when, right now you can think of something maybe in the past that you did, but when you do it in the future too, always try and, this is a great one to journal about too, because you want to remember and embody the feeling of that memory. Even if it's something that doesn't come out very pleasant, it's really kind of a good way to remember, and what I mean by that is, so say your sensitivity is someone who is in the depths of grief and loss, and your sensitivity understood that, you're being sensitive, you saw that. And it might have been a horrible, horrific thing for that person. They cried, they gnashed their teeth. I mean, it was just horrible. But knowing that you were the one that was able to sit through that, that's what comes out to remember to embody that element. Then you can create a silent affirmation inspired by the passion element you chose. Begin with the words, may I be. Example, may I be sensitive to those around me today. Because you remember that when you were that way with that one person, it just changed it changed your life, or your perspective, or, was just the ultimate for that person. So let's right now just kind of take a breath, let it go, and just choose one element of the framework: the perspective, attitude, sensitivity, savor, interest, opportunity, or nourish. Just going to give you a minute to reflect on that word and how that could be a role in either guiding someone or maybe guiding yourself. Opportunity. What could I do to just look for opportunities? How has that served me and others? Okay, and then go ahead and you could kind of just jot this down if this is helpful for you. Create an affirmation from that element that you chose and begin with the words, may I. May I be sensitive to those around me today. May I be aware of opportunities today. May I check in with my perspective. Okay, with that, I'm going to move on. So before we get to questions and answers, I just wanted to read you this. It's a Rumi poem. Don't you know yet? It is your light that lights the world. Let your light shine in every place, in every heart. Let it radiate. With all your love, with all your might, You are the light that the world needs. Let it shine in every deed. It's just kind of one of my favorites. A good reminder that we're all lights. So with that, I've completed the presentation, and I'd be really interested if you have any questions. I'll go up here to the chat. And yeah, I'm fine with sharing my PowerPoint if that works for the conference
I'll
group.
save it as a PDF to share.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And yeah, and I just want to say this has been just so delightful, because thank you, Terry and Julie and Denise and everybody else who supported this. This has been awesome. So I just wanted to kind of do that before we start chatting.
Do you want to stop sharing, or do you want to share
Yeah,
while we...
I can do that. Well, you know what? Let me just do this. I'll take you through the rest of the PowerPoint real quick here. Then you can see all the references. So you guys got that. And then you'll have this. This is our link. You don't necessarily, the QR code will take you right there to our website, what we're working on. Or there's the website, www.holistic. And you can email us. Yeah, be great to hear from everybody. And in 2026, we're going to have a newsletter. So by contacting us, we'll put you on the list if you want. But
wow.
All right. So I stopped sharing, didn't I?
You did.
Okay, good.
You're doing well.
I don't know why all of a sudden I don't know if I've got a different program, but anywho, all right, I'm going back up through the chats unless somebody just wants to speak out. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Seeing the claps. So yeah, if you want to just unmute and if you have any questions.
So yeah, or comments.
Yep.
There's 9 chats here. If I saw a lot.
Debbie, I'd just like to ask you what was kind of the purpose or passion or driving force for you and Sue to come together for this presentation?
Oh, nice. Great question. So, as I mentioned, you know, what we had done in the work in the past, and it just seemed like this was like when I mentioned about having purpose and passion, you know, and it kind of drives the behaviors and that. Seeking out, I remember talking to Sue and I said, oh, I think first let me give her credit, Denise. I'd been talking to Denise and we had been talking about the health ministries. We did, and that came through. We're creating a certificate for holistic nurses. And so Denise and I were just having this lovely conversation. At least I was. I don't know if she was, but I was having it. And we were just talking about how a lot of this suffering and things that were happening in healthcare was this not being connected to spirit, you know, not realizing how we're all connected, as someone said earlier, you know. And we thought, you know, Sue and I started talking about that. And I remember having great contact with the Health Ministries Association, in fact, several years ago. And I said to Sue, I said, you know, these are our people. Like, we don't have to tell them how important it is. And and so it was just an opportunity to share what we have been doing, and then and also get feedback. Is this worthy? Are these things that can be shared in a faith community? And you know, I think I answered your question. Maybe not, Julie. Can you tell me if that was just
No,
kind
you
of
definitely did. And I think what was fascinating about all that you had to say was it might be things we think about, but need reminders, because some of us are so caught up in what we need to do, what needs to get done, you know, our tasks, our
Yep.
checklists and all that. And you can so easily lose your purpose and or your passion.
Yep.
And I think Nancy alluded to it with compassion fatigue and other things like that. So it is just so, I think it's because of based on the nature of the work we do, it's so easy to lose yourself and who you are and what drove you to this particular or what called you to it. So
yeah,
it served as a great reminder to me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know there in any role that I've had, there's tasks that I'm like, I'm not a big like, the record keeper, you got to, one role that I had, you had to have a line, how many people attended your course and all of that. I'm like, I don't know. There was a bunch of them. We just had a great conversation. Everybody had a good time, and it was like, no, Debbie, you need to kind of quantify that. So anyway, but when I remembered, like just being with people, and if I want to keep doing this and having that fun, you need to learn to do these things, and I mean, that's just a small example. It's not really a big deal, but if you get enough of those tasks, like you said, Julie, you start losing sight. Why am I doing this? I'm spending all this time at a desk. I'm not there with the peeps. So
yeah,
thank you.
I saw that Nikki had her hand up. Nikki?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Debbie, it's great to hear your presentation today. And I'm sorry I've been off camera for today. I'm just driving down to Kansas City, but I did want to pipe in here and just say I'm one of those left brain people that Julie was kind of talking about a minute ago, and I so appreciate you sharing your gifts with us and with others, and your purpose and your passion, and just this time that we've had together today has kind of re-inspired me, and you've kind of given me permission and inspiration to just kind of think back as to why I'm doing this and why I love this work, and it's so important. So thank you for that, and I just look forward to getting to know you better, Debbie. So thank you.
Oh, Nikki, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, this is, going back to what Julie's original question with me, it was like, yeah, I need this just as much as, the presentation being given in that. So thank you. This is a gift. So if you think like, well, now I've done my job, I'm hanging up on her. I get it.
Because she's driving.
Yeah.
Donna Kramer has her hand up. Donna, unmute so you can talk.
Yeah, thank you. Again, Debbie, thank you so much for this presentation. I love your caustic there. That's helpful. I don't know what plans you and Sue have for presenting this to clergy and to church leaders, but I'll tell you, I used to see this all the time. Someone comes in new to a congregation and they're all anxious, eager, not anxious, but eager to help, and they're a teacher, so automatically it's assumed that they're going to teach Sunday school.
Oh,
well, they teach, whether it's adults or children, they teach 5 days a week.
Yeah.
They don't want to teach Sunday school, and yet they're pigeonholed in that because of what they do. And I think to have a program that church leaders can help folks discover their gifts, not only their spiritual gifts, but also what their passions are.
Oh,
So that they can help to serve and to move the kingdom forward in a meaningful way to them.
yes, absolutely. Because as we all know, that's what inspires everybody else around you too. You're not an island in this. And then also to look at the different age groups. I mean, that's kind of what came up when you were talking about that. You have people come in and I remember this one group, I was working with older adults and we were connecting with the church. We were partnering with them. And this the senior center with the older adults was a wellness clinic. They wanted to work with kids. And I remember them offering to do this. And, they were actually looking at this congregation as joining it. It was kind of like an outreach thing. And and I remember one woman saying, they think I'm too old to be with the kids. You know, if I wanted to hang out with old people, I'm here in this senior center right now. I'm done with that, you know? And because they, you know, and I gave that feedback, not quite that way, but to the pastor and that. And I said, yeah, they really, and he said, well, I'm worried about the kids knocking her down. And he had all these reasons, you know? So, well, there's things we can do that she can be around children and can serve. And yeah, so. Thank you. That's a group we'll look into. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say that I also thought about this would be a great presentation for a retreat, a women's retreat, a church retreat, a family retreat.
Oh,
all I could think of was this is great material to share.
Oh, great. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever we need to do, let's do it. We need
And
passion.
if I could follow up on that, thank you, Donna, and thank you, Terry, for your comments. And Donna, you had mentioned clergy as I don't serve in the parish anymore, but I have. And it's wearing, it's draining, and you do get caught up in the day to day, even though you're also energized by being with people in their life journey and such.
Yeah.
So this could be helpful. I'm thinking off the top of my head, and I hope it's not just enthusiasm. Maybe I can make this a passion. That perhaps at our next conference annual meeting next spring, I could present this. Is this usable by anybody else, or could I invite you to come do that? How might we do something like that?
Yeah, I mean thank you for asking that, Karen. The information's out there. That's why I gave you the resources and everything. And I think it really allows people to you know, put their energy and their passion behind presenting passion. You know, we want that rather than doing this. The only thing that's really trademarked in there is that passion diagram that you'll see. It'll be in your PowerPoint. And we just ask that if you're using that framework and using some of the materials that you would reference us, you know, as doing that. That's basically it. You know, we'd be happy to present too. So, whatever works best. Yeah, this is all given to us by God. So, yeah. Yeah, it's not trademarked, except for, like I said, with Sue, because she's not here. I can't speak for her, but that's pretty much how we've done this. Just give us credit for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now with money being so tight, it's like, is you want to do so many good things, and sometimes we feel like we can't because of the cost that's involved with it.
Yeah. And you know,
So thank you.
Sometimes too with, you know, we think, see, that's that I agree. I mean, money is an issue. And yet sometimes when we think money is the issue, we spend a lot of time on that topic. You know, whereas if we let it go and we say, oh yeah, there's, you know, money's an issue with, I mean, it's something I got to consider, of course. But you know, in my experience as doing a lot of group work and outreach, I just knew something had to come together. And it would just be like somebody was in town at the same time, you know, or, you know, something. I found that where money became more of an issue was when I was trying to create it up here in my brain. Like, this is how it's going to go. These are the people that need to attend, you know? So I'm not saying it works totally that way, but yeah, I just find like, oh yeah, money's an issue. It's always been an issue. When hasn't it been, you know?
Yeah,
And just being open to it.
you get creative around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody else is thinking the same way too.
Yeah, you do. No, Debbie, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to hear you speak and to get to know a little bit about you. So we're going to start the break rooms in a moment and let Julie finish for the day, and then we'll go into our break room. So thank you for being present for us today.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Cheryl. Vanessa, I see you, and Lisa, everybody. Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it. Hope
Debbie,
this-
one of the comments I saw was, we love your humor and your own passion that comes into your presentation. Personally, I love your laugh, but that's just me. So just to recap today, I wanted to let you know, we just wanted some thank you. So Anne reminded us to recognize our light of compassion and to look for it and find it in others. Linda was so vulnerable as she shared her story filled with pain, but then how out of that she found purpose. She became a human trafficking consultant and is involved in a program called Hope Works. She defined human trafficking and showed us what it looks like.
Wow.
Remember this number, $356 billion a year have been made from human trafficking. Remember, scars can lead to strength. And remember, report, report, report. Nancy shared with us how she found herself as a co-founder of a free clinic at her mosque. It was not what she necessarily wanted, but her path brought her out of moral destruction to compassion fatigue and into moral resilience. She explained how there's a cultural difference for the role of the nurse in Muslim culture. If you're not a nurse, you're a doctor. So staffing the clinic became about the med students. The clinic is growing and in service because Nancy never gave up. Deb started us out with the quote, "What we plant in contemplation, we reap in action." We discussed what our purpose is for developing a health ministry in a faith community, and she had us share how we answer this question for ourselves. She reminded us that life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Passion is the fuel that keeps you going regardless of what lies ahead. And Deb gave us insights into the amazing acronym of PASSION. So today, as we close, even if you want to join our break rooms, otherwise we will see you tomorrow. But I just want to remind you who you are and what your values are, what you stand for. They are your anchor and your North Star.